Hello, welcome to the Kink Perspective. My name's Chris. I'm a psychotherapist and consultant. On today's episode, I'm doing something a little bit different, something I haven't done for a couple of months. I'm getting a chance to sit down with somebody else from Fetlife, one of the bigger lifestyle and BDSM social media platforms. Today, I'm sitting down and having a conversation with my friend, Scorpio1375. He's one of the rising male fat celebrities, if you will, on social media with a huge following, not only because of videos of him and his puppy, but because of his incredible physique. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Scorpio to the show. How are you? Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, and it's an honor to be notified or noticed that that I'm more than my body. I've learned that my writings and the way I interact with people and my kindness has really helped gather my following.
Well, I think it's important to note that how we kind of met a few months ago and got to know each other. For those who don't know, myself and Scorpio, we share quite a few things in common. We're both veterans from the United States military. He's in the army. He was ex-army. I'm ex-navy. That's okay. We forgive him for being and choosing the army. Not all of us can qualify and get in the navy. That's all right. But what is really unique about you is months and months ago, you had written a post and you were very, very vocal about your struggles and just mental health in general. What prompted you coming into the lifestyle and to start talking about that on your own page?
Well, there's a there's I don't want to sound like I have an ego or it's something more than what it is, but I do have a platform, and people look at me, and I have a good physique. I have a lot of followers, and I wanted them to know that hey, we all suffer from mental health, and we none of us are clear or free from the disease, if you call it a disease or if you call it a illness, or if you call whatever it is you refer to, your mental health issues.
Right.
um we are all we are all susceptible of it. We are all,
Right.
none of us are
Absolutely.
free. And so hopefully, like, people can say, hey, like, look at this guy. He's good looking. He's got a physique. He's got a lot of followers. He's very popular. Um, he has a positive attitude despite, my insecurities and my suffering and my pain. But he's suffering from this too. So if he can suffer
Right.
from it, and he can be open and he can talk about it, you know I too, can open up and can look for help and seek help, and not, like I said, the big thing is not man up but speak up.
Right.
If you need help, and if you like, I kept telling my doctor something is not right. Now I couldn't explain it and I couldn't understand it, but I knew something was wrong with me, and I needed help. um and I think a lot of these guys, they feel this unsettledness, this unhappiness, this pain, and they don't know how to describe it or how to deal with it, so they push it away, and it gets worse and it gets worse. And that's why men's suicide rate is higher than women's for mental health, because men are more likely to kill themselves. Men are more.
No, I know all that. It's I think it's we always see these phrases that people are so brave and they're so strong standing up. And I don't think it's not to detract talk. I mean, I talk about mental health all the time. I want to get to your group that you started here in a little bit, but I really think, you've opened the door with who you are and letting people see that different side of you where it's not just that facade where they see, oh, well, here's a guy who's just posing and great, he's got muscles. And, they're all waiting for the nude pictures. And I know you don't do those, but, Everybody, your loyal thrones of followers are all waiting for you to do the nudes and everything else. So, but they don't a lot of people don't understand. There are a lot of people um, that do struggle, and when they're in the lifestyle, they don't really understand. And I'm not saying that everybody in the lifestyle struggles for mental health. I mean, it's statistically proven, and I don't want to get too much into that. But people in the lifestyle are typically better off than people who are, as far as mental health wise, than outside of it. But I think one question that maybe a lot of us or a lot of people would be on a lot of people's minds is, what brought you to the lifestyle? What was your segue into it?
Well, I've struggled. As I told you, I was struggling with something I didn't know what it was. Um, I was slowly not being as motivated. Instead of getting up and going about my day, I took sleeping pills and I went back to sleep because I didn't want to wake up. And and
Right.
so for a guy who's a military team leader, I gravitate towards leadership. I work 3 jobs. I travel Europe for a day. Like all of a sudden, this isn't right. Like this, I'm not. The joy of life isn't there. Um, and so we were on antidepressants for a while, and we kept upping the dosage, and it's not helping. I'm not feeling better. I'm still having these panic attacks, these unsettling feelings. Um, and so the last 3 years have been just a spiral of you know pain and mistakes, um and it hasn't been good for me. So I figured that, what, if I can share what I'm going through or what I went through, and the pain that it causes me, other people can say, hey, you know what, I feel that same thing too. And my hope is that they get ahead of it. So instead
Right.
of like 3 years down the road, I'm in a bad position. In a month or two, they can say, hey, I have these same problems, let me seek help, get the help they need, and not have to suffer the way I had to suffer.
Sure. No, and that is important. Whenever I write or I talk about issues that everybody faces, um, I always talk about, don't wait, contact someone early. Shop it around too. You've got to find the right person to talk to, that you want to open up and confide in and trust. Um, and it's important, and it's a hard conversation to have. And I think there was, I was even earlier today, I was writing back and forth with people throwing the word trauma around kind of like it's a tennis ball. It's not a buzzword. And then somebody else talking about, well, therapy should be quick. There's a big misnomer of people coming in and needing help and wanting to sit down with a therapist such as myself or others, and then they want your problems, they want their problem solved in an hour. And it's, we're not genies,
Right.
so therapy can take a really long time. But barring all of that aside, I know one thing is going to be curious for a lot of people is, what brought you to the lifestyle? What brought you to a BDSM website, or a fetish, more so a fetish website, or really whatever that website is nowadays to be
Uh,
to be considered.
well, I honestly, I was watching this porn of a scene between a guy and a girl, and it was
Right.
intense, and it was intriguing, and I sat and I watched the whole thing like I was watching a movie. I was engaged, I was impressed. I wanted to learn new ways to please, and to new intense ways to please women, because I'm a
Right.
pleasing person. um, and then I started reading books. I started reading online, because before I jumped in, I wanted to educate myself and learn about, because you hear BDSM and you're thinking like whips, chains. You're thinking like just not what it really is. So the dynamic between the D and the S was intriguing to me. the communication about sex and about kinks and about finding, what you're into and what they're into. It's
Right.
like, okay, so down the road, we're not stale with sex because we've had this open and honest communication about things we're interested in.
Right.
And really, I was looking for somebody who wants to explore and not have this. Well, that's kind of a weird attitude. Be like, you know what, that's interesting. Let's look into it. Let's see what we can do. Um, and vice versa. I want that for them. I want them to come to me and say, "Hey, this is kind of interesting to me. What do you think?" And have an open dialogue about it, and keep, because I think stale sex and you stop having sex, it leads to bad things.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've had some private conversations about that very big subject matter, and I know. I mean, the lifestyle is more than just a change between people. I think there's a lot of people that come into it. They see movies or they watch porn, and I know in the conversations you and I have had, we've talked about how much work literally has to go into not only just finding someone and the right person that you want to interact with, um, but you have to become very well versed in safety, in lengths and tensions of rope and plastics and other people's medical issues, and you have to really start to it is a really big relationship to build, and it's a lot of
It
work.
was it
And,
was deeper. So I jumped in with the idea of learning to please, on a different level, and as
right.
I read books, as I read online, as I educated myself, I realized what a extensive and large world it really was, and I had a lot to learn. um, I'm dominant in the bedroom, but this is like a whole nother level, and the communication, um, between your D and the S, was like, communication is important to me anyway, but having
Right.
that kind of open communication with your submissive, it just sucked me in. It took me from wanting to please to being interested in, um,
The control
the
side.
control side of it, for
Right.
both parts.
do you, do you consider yourself right now kind of just starting your journey, so you're still in that learning phase and still trying to really you know learn your crafts, just starting to explore? Do I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are curious to whether or not that do you consider yourself a
I
dominant?
I from our conversations, from reading books, from looking online, I don't consider myself a dominant. I am dominant in the bedroom. I am very much in
Right.
control. I am dominant in the sense that, like, I I don't I make decisions. You want to go out to eat? I've got a restaurant picked out. It's not a matter of where do you want to go? No, where do you want to go? So I'm very dominant in everything along those lines, but some of the sexual aspects of it, I'm learning. I think you should always be learning to begin with, and I think that a lot of these guys that are say they're dominants, they just want kinky sex, and they just want to be bullies. They don't want to
Yeah.
actually take the it's a responsibility, and it's a responsibility that I take serious of. Hey, you know what? I am here to be her biggest supporter. I am here to help her grow. I am here to make her a better submissive, a better person. And if we are just in a dynamic, I want her to leave, better than when she started. And I'm not ready to do that with somebody yet, which is why I've rejected every single option offer to be, someone's dominant or daddy. Any
Right. And that's actually was going to lead me to my next question would be, you know, because when you look over your profile, you talk about you want to be monogamous, but you're obviously not. You're not mentoring anyone. You're not protecting anyone, and all of those terms, they really don't mean that much in the online world. But it's curious how many offers per day or per week do you get from somebody, man or woman or non-binary or whatever the case may be? How many offers do you get per week for somebody wanting to submit to you versus how many offers do you get per week do you get from people wanting to have sex with you? Because those are two different things.
Um, the sex usually comes, after we've, you know, I've had to learn, like, when I first jumped in, I was excited and it was new and it was fun, and I wasn't as protective of myself as I am now with people, where I don't trust them. I don't trust
Right.
motives. I have to be, because I've had people that said they were my friends, and then when I showed interest in somebody else, they were like, oh, I thought we were this and I thought we were that, and I was like, well, why would you think that? I've given you no reason to think that way. Um, so I've learned to be protective. I get a decent amount of people wanting to be, looking for a submissive, or a dominant, looking for me, and I offer them. I said, look, if you want to get to know me, and we can talk daily, and we can talk outside of here, and see if we have a connection, because you know what, you might have needs that I can't meet, and
Right.
that's not fair to you. If you're a needy person that needs a true daddy dom, that that needs attention all the time, and I'm not able to give it to you, then I'm not the right person for you, and that's okay. Like,
Do you find if you have to reject people that I'm going to assume that the women that you have to that you're the women that you're rejecting, do any of them ever become like, do they flip it around and become rude or condescending or even aggressive and start with the name calling or anything, or is it pretty much a pleasant experience if you say, thank you but no thank you?
no, it's a pleasant experience, because I tell them, hey, you know what, um I can't dominate you if I don't know anything about you. If I don't know what makes you tick. I said, I need to be able to nurture you. I need to be able to, I'm your biggest fan. I need to help you grow. I want to help you grow. I said, I don't want, if you're looking for someone that's a masochist, I'm a sensual person. So right off the
Right.
bat, I said, we're not going to work. I said, you are welcome to talk to me, get to know me, and let's find out if we have a connection. And if we do, then let's discuss, moving in that direction. I said, and if we don't, then that's okay too. Maybe we could just be friends, and go from there. But I found it's very positive. There hasn't been a lot of negative, or you're this or you're that, or you're just a jerk. Like, I haven't had
Right.
anything negative. It's because I try and present it in a positive way, so they don't feel like, hey, I'm just rejecting them.
Well, no, I mean, that's the one power of the lifestyle that makes us more resilient when we are rejected because, the lifestyle is actually all about rejection. And I get this weird kind of look like when your dog turns its head sideways and it knows you're asking it something, but it's not quite sure what you
Yeah,
mean. What I mean by our rejection resiliency is that we're constantly being rejected, even if they're micro rejections, but it builds us up. So when we do reject somebody, it's not personal.
right,
Even when we're negotiating things, when we're negotiating in the beginning of how often we're going to play, and, you're really excited and you might want to play like 3 days a week. And they're like, I can only play one. Well, you just got rejected,
right,
but you're not heard about it.
right,
And so we kind of build that up over time. And it's interesting to hear that, at least um, a lot of your experiences with the rejection have been for the most part pleasant. Obviously, I know, um, I don't want to get too much into this subject. It's definitely a different conversation for a different day. But I know a lot of women don't face they see the ugly side of men on the website, and I have my own reasons though. Those people aren't, while they may be have a dominant personality trait, they're not, within the lifestyle context of what a dominant person is. And like I said, I don't want to divert too much away from that. What is it that with do you spend your time for now trying to find someone to connect with? Like, what do you look for when you're looking through all of the different, information that is there, the photos that are there, insights into their mind?
Um,
What's what do you look for?
well, initially I jumped in looking to meet somebody and hoping to, find a bond and meet somebody that, because really I want to meet somebody that I can grow with, that we can experiment together, that we can find kinks together, that we're open to experiencing things. And then I kind of switched into this to a guide for new women on the website, trying to help them um, educate themselves so they aren't put in a position of danger, or of, one guy wanted a girl to blow a guy in a supermarket, just wanted to stop him and blow him in a supermarket. That was what he wanted her to do. And I was like, that's
Hmm.
fucking crazy. I was like, why would he want that? And he wanted her to videotape it and send it to him. That was his dom on her. And because she asked me, because she didn't do it, but she asked me what I thought about that. And I said, I think that's insane. I said, why would you put someone in that position?
Well, sure. I mean, talking about violating someone else's consent, technically that's sexual assault. So she's committing a crime.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of things there that are huge red
Yeah.
flags. But when you talk to people, because I know we've had these
Yeah.
conversations, and you're still in your this learning phase. When you put information out there, though, do you ever go, do you ever say to yourself, I need to be careful what I'm saying because I don't know everything, or I've got to say stuff because I just see it? What's your approach on that?
I try to just offer what my own personal opinion is, and I tell them that. I said, look, this is my personal opinion, that I don't think that a man should be asking you to randomly stop a guy in a store and give him a blowjob. To follow up with this same exact story, he wanted to meet her, and he wanted his friend to pick her up in a car, and she was to blow him while he drove her to meet with this guy. I said, you need to block this guy, block him from everything that you have, and never speak to him again. I said, it's
But let me play devil's advocate on this for a
sure,
second because it's the other side of this. What if that was part of their they had pre-negotiated that? What if because it's not often that everybody's sharing every detail of a relationship, of anything in their life with somebody
right.
else.
Well,
But
she said that she didn't show me that it was negotiated. She said she was surprised that he had asked that. She was a little uncertain about not having her own vehicle, because he was going to pick her
right,
up. So she was very, very she already was feeling very uncomfortable with what he was asking her. And I said, this is my own opinion, but I don't think that asking somebody to perform oral sex on somebody they don't know is is a very appropriate thing. And I said, again, this is my personal opinion. I said, I don't know your situation with him completely, but assuming that what you've told me is true, where you're not comfortable doing this, then you need to get away from this guy, because he sounds like, he's bringing you to his house. You have no car, you have no protection, and you're alone in the house with a guy that you don't know.
right.
I said you have to protect yourself. You're a woman, and you're putting yourself in a position where something.
You're elevating your risk.
Right. And if you met this guy for coffee, if you met this guy for lunch, if you met this guy for dinner multiple times, and you felt comfortable going to his house without a vehicle, then that's fine. I said, but for the first time meeting some guy, you have no transportation and you're supposed to blow some random guy that you don't know. I'm like, that just doesn't seem like, I said, for me personally, something I said, I personally am not going to share my sub. If I have a sub or I have, something like that, I said, I'm not sharing her with random people. And I said, but that's not my thing. So, I'm not saying it's his thing is bad. I'm just saying that personally isn't the thing.
Well, sure, and everybody's is dynamics are different. There are people who are, in the cuckold life part of the lifestyle where they enjoy that. And again, it's just difficult. Do people ever come to you with questions about things that they're no one person in this lifestyle is obviously the end all be all answer to BDSM. No one has all the complete answers. And I challenge anybody to find that
Right.
person. As a matter of fact, I got a fat $100 that says no one can find that person
Right.
because not everybody. For example, like I'm into high protocol and much more strict style sadism style play. So you're not coming to me to talk to me and ask me my opinion on rope
Right.
because I don't do rope.
Right.
But do you ever get people coming up to you and asking you questions that you can't answer? And what do you do when that happens?
Um, I get, I mean, I should almost have like a like a $10 cash app thing where it's like for advice, $10 for advice. I get asked so many questions. I usually tell them, listen, I am not a normal person. Okay, I am very different from most people. I'm sensual, I'm romantic. I see things a little differently. I said, so everything I give you is my own personal feelings. And you're
Right,
welcome to take them as a grain of salt. Um, if you think they're accurate or if you think they're not accurate. I said, but I said I'm very new in this lifestyle. I've only been in here since March, so I don't know much. I don't know much on like sadism or masochism or things like that because those aren't things I'm interested in. Um, I said, I'll try to answer questions, but I'll make sure that they understand that, hey, listen, this is my own personal thought. This is nothing. This is not professional. I am not a professional dom. I said I'm learning, I'm exploring,
sure.
um, um, and I'm just you ask me a question, and I'll offer you an opinion. I get a lot of
No, fair enough. Like I said, I tend not to get into conversations with about other people's relationships, and I do couples counseling. So I mean, that's literally what I do, because I look at every conversation as different, and I imagine too that it takes away from the time of if you're sitting there trying to answer everybody's question, especially because you're in the limelight. Um, you know, you spend more time trying to answer a question, even if you're telling them it's your opinion, because they're holding it to gospel because you have so many followers and so many people are looking at your photos and your Instagram and all of those things. Um, One thing that I did see on your page that I wanted to bring up because I think it's quite important, and I've written against this. You have a thing on your page that where you think, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on. You have on there, you talk about submission as a gift. And I'm definitely going to play the counter side, but I want you to, because I've never really had a chance to have this discussion with you, and I've always wanted to.
okay,
So, what? I tell you what, I'm gonna kind of give you. I'm gonna go first. It'll give you a chance to see where I'm kind of coming from,
sure,
and to kind of get this one out there. I look at this thing that we hear this phrase all the time. Some people even call it a trope. That submission is a gift. Like submissives are these mythical fawns that are running through the forest of Narnia somewhere, and all these big wolf. dominants are out there just hunting them down and shooting them with rifles and taking them off to their caves or whatever the hell it may be, that somehow they do no wrong, that we have to earn all of their respect and care and trust and all of these things. They have to do nothing in return. And then, magically, the Dom takes all the responsibility, or the dominant, and the submissive just is kind of there for the ride. But when I look at this phrasing of submission as a gift, the problem is with a gift. You can do with a gift what you want. I can use that gift how I see fit. I can put that gift on the shelf. I can give that gift away to somebody else. I don't have to use my gift. I can abuse my gift. I can reject the gift. So when we get this conflated issue of people looking at this, and I'm not trying to change your mind. I
Right.
really want to have this open conversation about this. When I when people when I see this conversation that submission is a gift, I think it gives us, to me, it presents this false story to buy into, like this. It furthers the whole, oh, I entered because I saw 50 Shades of Stupid, or I watched The Secretary and I want a relationship just like that, and you're getting my BDSM flower, like my virginity, and it's a prize. But they neglect to understand all the work that goes inside. And that's for both people. I'm not just talking about
Sure.
submissives or just dominants. There's a lot of work that goes into all these things. In the conversations we've had, all the things I've talked about to you, and we've gone back and forth about. But thus, when we get into the submission as a gift part, is it almost, to me, tells me they have to do nothing but just show up or just be there, and that doesn't work.
Okay.
A relationship is a two-way street. It's not a bike path,
Right.
So I'm really curious from your side, because I know we've mentioned it in passing in a couple of our conversations over the months, over the last few months. So I'm kind of, wanting to get your views and your thoughts on that.
Well, I think submission, is you can say it's a gift that can be given, or trampled on, or whatever. I think it's a gift to that individual person. They're saying, here is my submission, you have earned my submission, so here it is. Because I think that, part of earning submission is showing her that, hey, I can dominate you, I can be your dominant, I'm not weak, I'm not underskilled, or even not motivated. I'm here to be your
Right.
dominant. And so in that sense, they're saying, okay, so I will give you personally my submission. My submission is for you and you only, not just. So it's a gift in a sense that, yes, they gifted it to you, and they're saying, okay, I'm putting my trust, my faith, my confidence into you as a person, as a dominant. And
Right.
more than in the sense of just saying, hey, not submission is a gift, and you can just do what you want with it. But I think it becomes more of, hey, this person has trusted me, this, because I think you should earn your title, like I said before. I
Sure.
think, don't call me your master, don't call me a sir, don't call me a daddy until I have earned that from you, which is almost the same thing as yeah, dominance is a gift as well, because they have shown that they have earned your dominance, that it's almost a two-way street. um but I think submission as a gift is a gift to that one person who has actually come to them and earned them, because to submission is different for every person. And
Well, sure. It's a huge act of
right.
trust, and that was just about, because you brought that up about the whole, it would then go back and turn to being, well, then dominance is just as much of a gift, and the two are going to just end up canceling each other out. I think because that phrase gets so highlighted all the time, submission is a gift. Submission is, I mean, I see on different social media or Twitter or Instagram, I constantly see this phrasing like it's some beacon,
Right.
and and they're the only ones deserving, and that's fine. I mean, not here to change anybody's opinion. I just know when somebody tells me something is a gift, they don't really understand what that
Right.
means, especially when we're in this context of it. But
Well,
interesting
I
enough.
think through a period, I think if people really actually took the time to court each other or vet, I know you don't like vet as much, but if they really took the time,
In this context, with what you're talking about, no, I agree. When two people are getting together and they're starting to learn about each other, you know, if we're really talking about after 2 or 3 months, we're going to start moving out of the getting to know you phase, and we're really talking about, all right, maybe next week might be our first play session together. You're going to want to know personally.
right,
I'd want to know somebody's criminal history. Hey, have you ever been in trouble with the law? That's a question I ask my slave or my submissive. What about your medical background? Is there anything I need to know? And I've usually asked that in the coming up.
especially.
But another important thing is even STIs. Do we need to be tested before we're going to play?
Right. But even you said before, like with the medical aspect, who thinks of that? Who really says, hey, what kind of do you have, are you, claustrophobic? Like
Sure.
what happens if I tie you up? Are you comfortable being tied up? Are you comfortable not being able to move your body? Are you comfortable with, small spaces? Like people don't think about some of these really, really important things that could turn a scene into a total disaster. You could,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was a conversation I remember we had that a couple of weeks
yeah,
ago where I was talking about, it's not about just binding somebody to your bed. It's like, well, are the binds going to be on your corner posts? Well, if you don't have a frame on your bed, so you're going to use rope that goes under the bed. Well, then how long is the rope? What if they're allergic to that style type of
right,
rope? So it's all of the things that go into it, that we really need to know, and all of these kind of real valuable questions. When for a potential partner, how important is it for you to talk to them about your own issues, or your own things that you deal with as far as the mental health side?
right. And that's another reason why I've avoided um, taking submissives on is because I have my own mental health issues right now that I'm dealing with and that I'm going through. And there's no way that I can actually take somebody into as a submissive, work with them, grow with them, help them, teach them, support them when myself personally, I'm falling apart. And I can't see, as much as I would like to take a submissive on and start training and start, because one girl just asked me if I would consider training her, and I have no idea how to train a submissive. Like I
Right.
don't know what goes into it. I don't know. I always just thought it was kind of one of those natural things where you're submissive. You just submit.
No.
You're right, and see, and that's again where I'm very open to the fact to admit that, hey, I don't know this stuff, and I understand that there's more, more to it. But when she was like, would you train me to be a submissive? I was just like, I just am not the person you want to train to be a submissive, because I don't know how. I don't know how to train you. I don't know, what goes into it.
And I know you and I have started talking about, because I know you, one of the other things we had talked about was like mentoring and things like that. But even prior to me, or even on your own, I mean, do you look for, other dominants that are really out there? They're in the lifestyle. They're really, they're in the scene somewhere. I know the scene where you are at, and I'm not going to state where he lives for all the people who are going to listen to this, because I don't want you flocking there trying to find them. But I know the particular part of the U.S. that you're in, there's not really that big of a scene.
No, not
But how do for me, for example, I trained for a year. I trained at a local dungeon. I trained with somebody there. I went to classes and everything else. How, what kind of, struggle does this present for you to find somebody to train with,
well.
for you personally?
Now that I've begun speaking with you and talking to you, huge problems, because before, I just kind of want to get on, and I just kind of want to kind of learn. I'm so busy right now between, my page and trying to get more involved in my men's mental health page, that to actually search out and find DOMs is next to impossible. I honestly just don't have the time between answering messages, answering notifications, um, trying to catch up in my readings in the men's mental health pages. Um,
Hmm.
it's just like it's like how do you find, like, how do you come across um, a male that wants to mentor, or that mentors the right way, or like, how do you put your trust into this person?
Well, it's kind of like anything else. It is finding somebody not only um, that is willing to train, that's is going to want to, and then in the style, there's the leather community and protocol community and the DS community. They're all subcultures under the fetish umbrella itself. So, it's really kind of finding those things like we've talked about in the past that do resonate with you, and then kind of asking around. I know, again, being geographically isolated a little bit in the middle part of the United States isn't easy, but where there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
So,
Well, like, things just come across, like, you just randomly messaged me one time after I started my page, and then we started talking about BDSM, and then like I told you in the beginning, I'm not looking for keywords to get submissives. I don't need keywords. I can get submissives without problems. I just want to be able to be the best, the best dom for them, you know. And
right.
like you said, many guys that are in BDSM are just looking for kinky sex. um and that's not, I've had kinky
I think a lot of people are. I don't think it's just men. I think there are just as many women out there
that
that
look for.
they've that are looking just for kinky sex, because when it comes down to it, when I see this, the other side of dominance get bashed quite a bit. I'm one outside of my professional life, but I've had my fair share of submissives that are just, well, I mean, they're absolutely terrible. There was no desire to learn. They would be given things to do. They would outright reject them. They didn't want to put, there was no effort. One thing I always come into about the lifestyle, and I tend to discuss quite a bit, is it's not just about communication. Communication's great, but if you are, you're working really hard to better yourself as a dom, and you're out there learning and you're training and you're going to classes, and you're sub sitting at home like not doing anything,
Right.
well, there's more to being submissive than just saying I'm a submissive. It's, you have to understand what's the roles of a service sub, what, you know how to talk, maybe position training, all of those things to become familiarized with it. Does being a service submissive sound better than being a slave? Does being a bottom sound better than being a sub? And understanding the different terminology inside of the lifestyle, I think that's the one thing for a lot of people. It's, I've been going at this for over 20 years, and we're constantly evolving, and it's I look at the fetish community like the universe. It's constantly growing because there's always something new to see or do or explore.
Yeah.
And one of the fascinating things about it, I know you, and I really want to dive into this topic with you again. And you had mentioned your men's mental health um, group that you run on Fetlife. Today, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to that, but I definitely, if you have time in the future, I'd like to bring you back, kind of dive into that discussion one more time. Really like to talk about what, your inspiration for creating a group for men, um, which really did draw me kind of like a moth to a flame to you, because I've been talking. I don't write specifically just about men, but a lot of the things I write about are, talk about men's feelings and men's responses to their emotions, and not to shut them out. Um, but I'd really like. Would you have time to come back in the
Oh
future
yeah,
we can sit down again, and I really want to talk to you about your men's mental health group and all the wonderful and positive things you're doing
yeah,
there.
that would be awesome because, well, yeah, I mean, I'm free anytime, so anytime you wanna do it, you just let me give me an hour notice so I can get ready. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm open because I would love to get because I'm still it's grown really quickly. Like I just hit 300 members like a couple days ago, and I'm already at 360. So
Right.
it's starting to pick up. Um,
Gain its momentum.
I'm
And it's an important thing. It's an important
it,
it's an important group to be a part of, and it's to really give. I don't like using the word safe space because we don't actually, the world doesn't have safe spaces, but it's an important spot for information for men, and a place where they can share the things that affect them,
well,
that only affect them.
and it shows them that like, hey, they aren't alone. Like these
Absolutely.
feelings that they're feeling, and that they're trying to push away, and they're trying to push away, and it's only growing worse, and it not only affects them, but it affects their family because they're battling this thing inside that they don't understand. They're women, and I'll be honest with you, I receive more messages just from women saying that they're just incredibly happy that I started this group. I mean, the women have
Right.
been amazing on Fetlife with messaging me and talking to me, and so they if they could just learn to open up to their wives and say, hey, I'm struggling, I need help, let's go get me some counseling, let's get me a psychiatrist, let's get me on some medication because one thing I learned is when my medication was going well and I stopped.
Or let's get you a really good psychotherapist that we know.
Right, right. But they need to start leaning on her and saying, hey, I'm vulnerable, I need this help.
No, 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 no. Absolutely, you're really right there. And again, these are the conversations that you and I have had. These are the conversations that you write about and that I write about. Um, they're not loud enough on social media, and like that was the one thing I even told you the other day when we were looking. And this isn't a dig, and it's actually sad. This number has to be there, but women's services for adult for anything, especially even in as far as mental health goes, outnumbers men by about 9 to 1.
Yeah.
So there is some realities there that men are left behind, but men are always we can get into those reasons next time.
Okay.
So Scorpio, I appreciate it. I really thank you for spending this time with me today. Give a little bit more insight into who you are, what you're about. Hopefully, some people will learn some more about you. um, and then, like I said, we're gonna definitely have another conversation about your that men's mental health group here in the
Yeah,
future. Hopefully before Christmas.
I would appreciate that because I really want it to grow. I don't want it to be a check in the box. I want men to come in. I want them to open up. Um, whenever I post, mental health stuff on my page, um,
Right.
people respond like you wouldn't believe, and they open up and they share some powerful shares. Um, and it's just amazing that they're so open up and they're so free to share whenever I post mental health readings or writings.
Yeah, and that's the conduit, being that conduit for others to see, hey, I'm going through, if he's going through it, I'm going through it. It's kind of like it's the same similar responses I get when I talk about trauma, or like I was a long, long time ago was a victim of sexual assault. I've been involved in a shooting. Um, so there are different types of trauma and things that we all go through, and we've been in the military, and we've seen and experienced different types of military trauma and how that affects us. But definitely, we're gonna have another conversation on another day for that one. So thank
Yeah,
you
my
again. I appreciate it, my
my
friend.
pleasure, my friend. It's good
Um,
talking to you.
I will. Good talking to you. Thank you for joining me, and for everybody out there listening. Until next time, everybody, be safe and stay kinky.